Go. I get high till I'm ready to get my head right. I get pressure from the bed because I rep right. All these niggas wanna know what it felt like to be an east side rider on the west side. All my rides got switches in it. Cops fucking with my car cause I'm sitting in it. They that's hating cause
What is
I'm
up,
faded
guys?
with
Welcome
some
to
bitches
another
in it.
episode
I
of
ain't
Maximilian.
making
No,
it.
today we're going to look at a fragrance from the house of Calvin Klein, and this one is considered to be a classic. Guys, this one is called Obsession. Now, I have a goal this year to review a few classic men's fragrances, and this is the one that I'm starting out with. And before we talk about Obsession, let's talk about one of the most successful designer houses of all time in Calvin Klein. This was a house started in the 1960s by a man named Calvin Klein, and basically before Klein, there really wasn't such a thing as designer jeans. You had your basic brands that made denim like Lee and Levi's and Wrangler, but that was just strictly denim. Calvin Klein in the late 1960s was really the first brand that did designer jeans and put their name on the back of the pocket above the belt loop. Now, of course, their underwear line was also extremely successful, and you know, a lot of people sagged their pants in the late 80s and early 90s to show Calvin Klein on their boxers. It was a real fashion statement. The house actually was started as a coat company in the New York hotel from a $10,000 loan that Calvin Klein secured. Now, you folks know as of today, the house is known worldwide for their jeans, their ready-to-wear and couture lines, their jewelry, and of course the famous CK logo. Fragrance-wise, their first scent called Calvin came out in 1981. They actually handled everything in-house until they sold to Coty in 2005. And as of this video, there are over 110 fragrances in the Calvin Klein catalog. And what's remarkable to me, at least, is that they've had very real hit fragrances in 3 different decades. They had Obsession in the 80s, CK1 in the 90s, and Euphoria in the 2000s. As far as the house goes for me, I definitely had the jeans and the boxers, but clothing-wise, that's all it's really been for me. Fragrance-wise, you couldn't be anywhere near perfume or cologne in the 1990s and not have owned anything by the house. I'm not going to lie. I never owned Eternity or Obsession. I enjoyed Escape, which in the 90s was probably their 3rd most popular scent, and my favorite from the trio. And while I don't own Escape now, I plan on owning that one down the road and reviewing it. I did also have a bottle of CK1, and we can talk about that one maybe later as well. The only other scent that I have from the house right now is this guy in CK1 Shock. My plan is to buy Eternity and Escape and possibly CK1 again down the line. Now, Obsession for Men came out in 1986. The women's version dropped in 85. The Parfumé was a man named Bob Slattery. He only has this scent on his resume. Notes on it are tangerine, lime, bergamot, and grapefruit at the top, lavender nut, coriander, cinnamon, carnation, jasmine, rose, and pine in the middle, and patchouli, sandalwood, vetiver, benzoin, vanilla, red berries, and amber in the base. I got a 75 ml of this for $27 at TJ Maxx. You should be able to find this fragrance no matter where you look for under $50, and you should not pay more for it. It is an EDT in concentration. I have heard there is a men's EDP floating out there, but I haven't been able to find it. And there are 2 men's flankers, one called Night, which was a 2005 release, and one called Dark, which was a 2013 release. As far as your presentation goes, Obsession, you know, nothing too fancy. You have your batch code on the bottom for men, eau de toilette spray, and then your bottle, Obsession for Men, eau de toilette vaporizer. This is a 75 ml, as I said, a fall, I think, well, I don't know actually, maybe it's not a fall turtle shell cap, but it sort of looks like that. And it has a decent sprayer, so, you know, that's the presentation. And with this one off the bat, when I smell it, I think 1980s. This is an 80s fragrance through and through. It opens up with sort of very rough and dark citrus notes, and then there are your common men's 80s florals backing up the citrus. I mean carnation, rose, and jasmine. And those florals in the dark citrus really sit on top of a very resinous cinnamon no. You're going to smell patchouli, you're going to smell benzoin and vanilla at the base of this fragrance. This is sort of a stereotypical spicy oriental. I don't actually think it evolves too much. What sort of happens is that those citrus notes, which are very apparent at the top, eventually fade away to leave you with a cinnamon, spicy, resinous scent that's really quite nice. And I can totally see why this was such a hit in 1986. It really took the sort of stereotypical 80s excessive fragrance and refined it a bit to make it more wearable, more palatable, and more restrained, so that the wearer could feel sexy and chic, but also there's a nice bit of class to this, and the materials used do indeed make it smell like an expensive scent. I think that a lot of 80s fragrances really tried to be like Obsession, and where they at least fell flat to me was being too oak moss and floral heavy. I like the fact that they made this scent very resinous and ambery and really did push on the cinnamon note. For an EDT, I get really good performance out of this. You know, they made fragrances strong in the 80s, and Obsession is an example of that craftsmanship. It's going to last, it's going to project. It's very unisex in my opinion, though I see how and why it was made for men instead of women. And to me, this is a cold weather scent through and through. You can get away with it in the spring, but not in the summer. And I think it can be worn easily at the office and easily casually. If you're a fan of this but want to try something different or can't get it, you know, I would take a look at Red by Giorgio of Beverly Hills, Quorum by Antonio Puig, or Passion by Elizabeth Taylor. All sort of give you that resinous 80s vibe for a cheapy price. Now, if you wanted to upgrade, look at fragrances like Ambre Rousse by Parfum d'Empire or Mitza by Christian Dior. Any good, strong amber fragrance. I think someone trying to sell you this would say that for under $30 you can purchase one of the most classic men's fragrances of all time. It's going to perform well, and it can still be worn today without feeling like a dinosaur, and that's all very true. Now, on the flip side, someone else would say that there are more modern fragrances for under $30 out there, and why would you wear something that could make you smell dated? Materials and tastes have evolved over the past 30 years, and there's no excuse for a guy not to wear something a little bit more modern in the same price range. So where do I fall? Well, rating wise, this was tough. I'm going to give this a 7.5 on my system, with the caveat that I'm probably not going to be reaching for this all that much, but it really does tick all of the boxes that I have, right? The price is right, the presentation is fine, though I do wonder if perhaps they should update it. The fragrance is original, and it's going to perform well for you. It's readily available, and it's got a great price. So it's hard for me to really hammer this fragrance except in one real regard, which is that even though no one's going to tell you that you smell like you're from the 80s when you're wearing this, the truth is that in my collection of 400 plus fragrances, I have better and I have more modern scents, and because of that, it becomes quite hard for me to justify reaching for Obsession. I think what Calvin Klein should have done is in the 2000s released absolute or extreme versions of Obsession, Escape, and Eternity. I think he could have used that name to really update the line and make more modern sense. And, you know, also why I don't really love this one is because it's hard for me to be nostalgic about it. I didn't wear it. So it's not like like Polo Sport. I don't think is a great fragrance, but I love it because it reminds me, triggers memory. So there you go. That is my take on Obsession for men. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed me doing a classic men's fragrance, and we'll be back with more videos.
Niggas is scared. Man, I ain't got a scar in this hood in 10 years. Nigga, shit, yeah, I shit and piss here and pull up in the bed till you set and switch gears. Yeah, I'm a monster, bitch, and it's hard for me.